The other day, Phil Spencer gave a fantastic interview with Gamertag Radio where he talked about the future of Xbox, and in particular, how Xbox Series X is going to be bold and different, how Phil isn't happy with their position in Japan. He talked about Xbox VR support and how it could happen sometime down the road, and he defended their strategy with no Xbox Series X exclusives at launch. And we're going to talk about all this stuff because it's fascinating. What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. And if you could do me a big favor, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. So first off, I gotta give a big shout out to the Gamertag Radio guys. They had their 1000th episode, and as a special guest they had on Phil Spencer during the podcast. I'll have that linked below because it is a really good listen if you want to hear what Phil thinks about the future of Xbox and everything that goes along with it. But I'm going to break down everything he said in that podcast because it's pretty damn important. And I'm going to start with how Xbox Series X is going to be bold and different, and how it started with the reveal at the Video Game Awards. Now, Phil admitted initially he wasn't the biggest fan of the Game Awards reveal idea. He said that it was actually pushed forward by one of their marketing leads. She stood up in front of the room and said, "We should go do something bold, something we've never done before. Let's face it, we're not in the market position we wanted to be in for this last generation. I don't think we're going to disrupt and grow our business by doing what we've always done. Let's go try to do new things." And that's something I completely 100% agree with. I thought the reveal was excellent. Nobody was expecting it, and everybody thought that Microsoft would just do some event at some point like they did last generation. But this proved that Microsoft is trying to do things differently because they have to. Xbox is not in the best position right now, especially when you compare it to the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4. People give shit to Sony because they're so quiet about the PlayStation 5, screaming from the heavens, "Where is the reveal?" But they don't have to do much with the PlayStation 5. People are happy with the PlayStation 4, and they can continue to do what has worked for them in the past. The thing with Xbox is they're trying to make up for all the mistakes that happened in the beginning. They want people to give Xbox a second look, and you're not gonna do that by doing the same things you did before. You need to be bold, you need to be aggressive, you need to put yourself out there and say, look at what we're doing. Look at what makes us different from everybody else. And that is what I think, and seemingly what Team Xbox thinks is going to work for Series X down the road. Being aggressive and being bold. But you know what? Phil said that this all could have been a disaster. He says it was cool to do it, and I think the response has been great. But to be completely honest with you, I could be sitting with you today and it could have been a disaster. You have to make those decisions, and you have to make them without the knowledge of how it's going to play out. I'm really happy with the way the Game Awards played out and the response from fans, but every decision we make between now and launch, we're going to think about things in a different way. Some of them we'll get right and some of them we won't, but we're definitely not going to be meek. We're going to be bold in what we're going to try to do. Now, I love the idea of Microsoft doing things differently, of being bold. I don't want to have to wait for a reveal event in April or May, and then for E3 later on. It sounds like they're going to be doing things a little bit differently, and as a content creator, that's awesome because I love talking about Xbox and Series X and the games that we're going to be playing. So I can't wait to see what new things, what new bold ideas Microsoft and their team have for Xbox Series X and the reveal moving forward. So next up, Phil talked about the controversial idea of not having any true exclusives for the Xbox Series X at launch. We know Halo Infinite is going to be there, but it's going to be on both systems, the Series X and the Xbox One, and presumably even something like Forza Motorsport 8 will bridge the gap between both systems. Now, there have been a lot of people in favor of that decision that's saying those people should be able to play the games no matter the device that you're on, but of course, there have been people that say that sucks because exclusives are what drive console sales, and there's no reason to buy the Series X if you can play those games on the Xbox One, and the Xbox One will hold back those versions of said games. Basically, Phil is saying that Xbox is putting the player at the center and not putting the device at the center of its vision of the future. Obviously, we built our strategy with Series X. We started with that in mind. We wanted to go build a gaming console that was going to be the absolute best that we could deliver on a television and deliver unique capability to creators that they could use to go create the best games. But you don't want to do that to the exclusion of everybody else, and you also want to do that hand in hand with developers, because developers want to find the widest audience possible. And yes, there are always trade-offs. I'm not going to dictate to every third-party studio what they have to support, but what we see in today's world is that gamers want to go and play games with their friends regardless of what device those friends are on. People want to have the largest selection of games open to them, and developers want to make use of the best technology that's available. We built this plan with all three of those as inputs, and we feel really good about where we are. So how do I personally feel about this no Xbox Series X exclusives for at least a year or two? Well, I said it in the original Matt Booty video that, hey, I'm a selfish person. I'm getting Series X day one, and I would love to see those games made only for that system. But even with that said, I understand completely why Microsoft is putting their games cross-gen for the first year or 2 years. Clearly, Microsoft doesn't want to abandon the 50 million plus Xbox One owners right away, and they want to give developers a large audience for them to actually sell their games to. But then there's stuff like Xbox Game Pass. One of the big features of Game Pass is Microsoft's own games available day one. But if everything was exclusive to Xbox Series X, that kind of takes away some of the value for Xbox One owners. And then you got to think about things like xCloud. Microsoft also sells their games on Steam and Windows PC. And last time I checked, someone with a 2080 Ti and someone that has basically a PC from 5 years ago can play the same game, but at different settings. And that's essentially how the start of this next generation is going to be for Xbox. If you want the best version, get a Series X. If you just want to play the game but don't want to upgrade right away, then you still have Xbox One X and Xbox One S. And then of course the developers can sell their games to the entire Xbox audience and not just a portion of it. One of the other subjects that Phil talked about during this interview with Gamertag Radio was VR and if Xbox would ever support it. Now let me take you back a few months ago when Phil Spencer said that nobody is asking for VR, and social media dragged him for it. Well, during this interview, he basically said that he hopes VR becomes so important that it would be a no-brainer for Xbox to support. The quote begins with, "There are a lot of people I know that are working on some good VR titles, great VR titles, and I'm not trying to be not supportive of that. My main point was I wanted to be clear with our customers on where our focus was, so that if somebody was waiting for us to bring out a VR headset for Series X at the launch or something, we're not going to do that. I understand that certain people would want that. We have to focus our efforts on the things that we're doing right now, and the most precious resource that we have is the team and their ability, and I have to focus on the things that we're doing right now." Now, of course, if you go back to the reveal of Xbox One X at E3 2016, Phil Spencer famously said that Xbox One X would support high-fidelity premium VR experiences. And of course, the Xbox One X never supported that. So a lot of people, rightfully so, get angry at Phil and the lack of Xbox VR support. And what he's saying here is, look, don't buy the Series X with the thought that maybe at launch it will support VR, because it won't. And he just wanted to let everybody know that that is the case. Don't expect VR at launch. However, he does hope that at some point down the road, it gets so popular that they have to support it. He says, I don't hope VR goes away. I hope it gets bigger. I hope it's something that's so important that it would be a no-brainer for us to go support it. I have a PSVR. I've used it. I enjoy it. I don't think VR is a gimmick. But with that said, I think it's way too expensive and the headsets are way too bulky. And I do hope, honestly, that at some point VR comes to Xbox. But it's not something in the long laundry list of things that I want Xbox to do. It's nowhere near the top. There are things I need Xbox to do great first before they step foot into the pool that is VR. I hope it happens someday, but I agree with Phil that there are things that are a larger priority than VR right now. And last but not least, Phil talked about Japan, how Xbox's position there isn't acceptable. He wants to do a much better job with the Series X launch in the region. And you know what? He wants to add a studio from that area to Xbox Game Studios' first party. Now, this is what he had to say. He says that our market in Japan for Xbox is important to us. Obviously, Sony and Nintendo are both strong Japanese companies who have done a great job. I don't know if we're winning in Japan anytime soon, but the position that we have in Japan today from a platform isn't acceptable to me. We're going to do a much better job with this next upcoming launch of not waiting 10 months to launch in Japan like we did last time. We're going to make sure our services like Game Pass, xCloud, and stuff are there so that people will have access to it. You know, there ain't no doubt about it. The Japanese support for Xbox this generation has not been good, but it has been getting better recently. The Yakuza series is finally coming to Xbox soon. All the Final Fantasy games are on Xbox, which is great. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, after years and years, are finally making their way over. And most Japanese games tend to have a 1-year exclusivity window on PlayStation before jumping to Xbox, stuff like Nier Automata. But games still miss Xbox. Next month, Nioh 2 is a big exclusive for the PlayStation 4, and the Persona series still hasn't come over. And Phil has said that he cringes every single time a big game skips the platform. Yeah. It's not a good look for games to skip your platform because your platform is basically non-existent in that region. But Phil has plans to change that. He wants to buy a studio from Japan. This is what he had to say. I think what you're asking about is, could we have more homegrown first-party content that's developed there? And I'll just say that I think we can. I'm not announcing anything, but I think the Japanese market is specifically important because of the creative community there and because of the gamer community there. I want Xbox to mean more there than it does today, and that means working across a bunch of different fronts to make that possible, and it takes time. Alright guys, so that was all the big information that Phil dropped during his interview on the 1000th episode of the Gamertag Radio. Make sure you guys check out that podcast. Link is in the description below because it was actually really good. And, you know, I want to thank everybody for watching my video, supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you really enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Share this out on social media. Maybe tell a friend about the channel. I'd appreciate that very much. And if you want to be notified immediately when I drop new content, make sure you hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.